All set? Okay. I'd like to call the Tufton Borough Selectmen's Meeting to order for Monday, January 13th, 2025. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public input? All right, seeing none, go to the approval of the minutes. I'm going to be approving the minutes from Monday, December 16th, 2024. Any additions, deletions?
I think I had I didn't.
Just remind me, did we vote that the additional stickers were gonna cost $20?
$5.
Cause it was here at $20.
I think that was talking about the discussion, was that?
Yeah, because I didn't get approved till the following week.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Appointments. Code Officer Monthly Update. Welcome, Jack.
Hi, Jack. So last year there was 162 building permits, 47 new houses, did 47 certificates of occupancy, and I did 848 inspections. This year so far we got 2 new houses. So
Have two, what else?
2 new houses this year already. And a little water heater down below needs a new one. So
Under
little
here?
10-gallon one, yeah. So either 6 or a 10-gallon needs to be replaced. It's all burnt out. So
Okay.
okay, so I'll get that done. That's all I got.
And did you,
And
I'm trying to remember, I thought we had a question for Jack, and I'm blanking on what it was.
had a lot of questions on the police station I've been dealing with over
Yeah.
vacation and all that, dealing with Phil and all that. So it's
is
been a lot
that
of
come to that on the 16th? Is that what our plan is?
24th. They're supposed to send stuff in, but yeah, they've been asking a lot of questions that Phil's been answering. So
And we're all set with the government buildings?
as far as I know,
Okay.
Did it have to do with the lamppost?
Outside
they
lighting?
put new bulbs in it. It's much brighter.
No, it didn't have to do with that.
Okay.
But so I I know what it was. We will need an electrician to do the panel at some point, not right away. Over by the police, fire department,
Central Park?
Central Park.
So what do you want to do there? Because there's no power to that building anymore.
No,
It's been taken.
they wanna put a PowerPoint out there.
Right, so they want to put a pedestal up, a meter socket or something, so they
Yeah.
have
So you have something so that we don't have to run
across
electricity
the parking lot,
across the
right?
parking lot.
All right, so
So
Apparently
at some
this-
point we'll need an electrician that we can.
And apparently somebody has to have a meeting with the co-op there.
Yeah, so Tammy's already been pursuing it and requested, I know his first name's Scott, I can't remember his last name. And he said that New Hampshire co-op would meet him out there, and there's a, I think, $310 fee to do so.
just to look at it, an
Yeah.
engineering
Right.
fee, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they'll identify which pole number would come off of and things like that.
Right.
So that-
Well, I think we're a little. Are we a little ahead of ourselves on that though?
What do you mean?
Well, I can get a number on the socket, but then the co-op's going to be another price.
Right. I just don't. We're not.
What's the question?
The question is, we don't have the funds for it yet.
Right, but I can get you a number.
You can get me a number.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just we can't do anything that's going to cost money yet.
No, I was asking for a quote though.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
We have 25 budget we're operating on now.
Yeah.
I mean, if we got a number, it might fit right in there. Who knows?
So that's it. That's the only question that I have.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
Ivy Robichaud,
Hi there,
how are you?
I'm Ivy Robichaud with Revision,
Come on
and
to the table.
Come on up.
would you
Come
like
on
us
up.
to sit there?
Yeah, please, come on up.
This is Bobby O'Brien, also
Hello,
with Revision.
nice to meet you. Bob Murray.
Nice to meet you, too.
Nice to meet you.
Dave Dawson. Hey, sorry.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
meet you.
David, nice to meet you,
Hi
Bob.
there, how are you?
Thanks for having us. Beautiful drive from here.
Where are you coming from?
I live in Portsmouth, but I was in our Brentwood office today.
Yeah, I come out of Durham today. That's where I live.
Yeah.
Nice.
About 1 hour, not too bad.
Not too bad, and I was glad to do it with some daylight, because it really is a gorgeous,
Yeah.
corner of the day.
You wanna be at the table?
You should.
So I understand that we're here to just answer any questions that you might have, give a current status update for you all. And then we have just a couple of questions. So dive in wherever you'd like. Would you like the current status?
Yeah, I think we should start off with that. Where are we today?
Absolutely, yeah. So very similar actually to the last status, which was, I think, emailed December 6th, before the holidays. So there's sort of 3 big buckets that we manage throughout the development process, and that's interconnection with New Hampshire Electric. And we are approved for interconnection, so that's great. That's a big piece out of the way. And then we move into the permitting bucket, and that's state permitting. Because we're near a capped landfill, we're gonna have to engage with Department of Environmental Services. We can get further into that, but that's our sort of next step. We're meeting with them Wednesday this week, day after tomorrow, to move that forward. So that's state permitting. Federal permitting, we're all set there. We use a FAA screening tool to make sure that there's no FAA pings for height or anything, and we are clear. We've passed that. And then local permitting, of course, with your code office, and make sure that that we meet everything there. So those are sort of the permanent steps. Once we're through all of those steps, I'll be passing the project to Bobby, who is our install project manager and an electrician, and has a lot of the sort of technical questions. So we wanted to both attend to give you the full rounded.
And what are you
approach.
expecting that you're gonna break ground on this?
Well, that depends. It's a great question. One of the biggest variables right now is how things go with Department of Environmental Services. At this point, they have said you need to reopen the capped landfill permit. We feel, I have some colleagues who have deeper experience with landfill permits. We feel that we might qualify for a waiver and not have to go through that very lengthy process. So on Wednesday, Revision is gonna sort of present our case to them. Because this array is not on the capped landfill, just near the capped landfill, we're really hoping that we could avoid going through their very lengthy process.
City of Manchester has 8,000 panels on top of their old landfill. You familiar with that site?
Are you, Bobby?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I built a site in Exeter actually this year on the capped landfill. So we're very familiar with the process of opening those permits, because it's an amendment to the existing permit is the tricky part. It's not just, there is no real slot for a construction permit on it. But yeah, we're very familiar with that process.
Do you
So we're
see
trying
any,
to avoid
do you
it.
see any obstacles in our way?
No, I mean, from I guess I'm not a civil engineer, and so from my point of view, no, I don't see how this could affect their operations. I mean, not operations that affect the actual landfill itself.
Closure.
You know, as long as we're not near the. I mean, we're pretty far away from the presumed cap, so I don't see why they would do that, but the state doesn't always make logical decisions on those things. If they want a permit, if they want to go through a process, I don't know what our ability to push back on that is exactly. So we're a little bit at the mercy there.
Okay.
If we take this out of the equation, we come to you guys and get a permit if you feel like issuing one, and we're building that in the spring. So it's the landfill portion, it's the state DS portion that is, the complication.
Yeah, so coming back to your question, my understanding, worst case scenario is they say, yes, we have to reopen that permit and file a formal amendment. And I think that can be up to 6 months of time to get approval. And we couldn't reach what we call MTP, which would be when we hand this to Bobby to build, until we've got that permit in hand. Best case scenario would be they say, oh yeah, you're actually not on the closed landfill, you're just near the closed landfill, and therefore, maybe a speedier process, so.
How far away is the proposed site?
I don't know if I have that measurement. I think it was, I don't.
It was a good
I don't
over
have-
100 feet.
It's gotta be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well over 100, yeah.
I haven't seen like a civil. I don't think we've surveyed the site, so we don't have like an awesome layout we could put together that shows that. But we're not anywhere near it. So I don't know I don't know a lot about transfer stations. What it would take if you wanted to add a building on there. Are you opening the permit?
Yeah.
If I can jump in, you have to. What we're looking for here is a change of use permit.
Sure.
And my experience with the state has been the least amount of information that
Yeah.
we flood them with, the better we are.
Yeah.
If you have an engineering design, if you have a survey,
Yep.
that needs to go with the application.
Yep.
And I had to redo the application about a year ago now, and it took, at the outset, 60 days.
Okay.
Because it was, everything we had was 1 point.
Yep. That's what I've noticed with them is like they put 60 days on every communication. So if we can get through as the simple process, and then it could be pretty quick. But when we're doing a more complex, working on the landfill, if each communication takes 60 days, that adds up pretty quickly. 2 months per email, basically. Go ahead.
If I can make one suggestion, the least amount of times that you say landfill
Sure.
project, the better.
Okay.
But that's going to lead them to believe we're
Yeah.
disturbing
Yep.
the closure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not even near the closure.
Yeah. No.
So that's information.
We're not working on the landfill, we're working
Right.
with the transfer station.
Exactly.
If we
Yeah.
were working on that landfill, we'd be opening up a can of worms.
Oh yeah.
But we're not, we just need the change of use permit to allow us to
Mhm.
generate
Yep.
electricity.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, so the change of use is probably different than I think they were calling it an amendment
Yeah.
to the permit. That's what we did at for Exeter. So that's a much more lengthy process. So what you're describing should be
Right.
quick, and we can do that through the winter.
I think if we were putting panels on top of the
Yep.
landfill, we'd have to amend that closure
Yep.
because we're disturbing.
Yes.
fossil
And they're
fuel.
doing geotechnical surveys, and it's a pretty lengthy
Yes.
permit application from a civil engineering firm.
I think if we go from the outset and say, we're not
Yep.
disturbing it a bit,
Yeah, and this doesn't impact any of the closure wells either.
Yeah.
no.
There's a system of wells surrounding this landfill, but
Yeah, this, like you said, it's a transfer station. It's a transfer station project and a transfer station issue, and
right.
hopefully that's
It's really no different than Chris wanting to add a commercial compactor,
Right.
yeah,
That's the same
Right.
idea.
Any adjustment that we make to the footprint,
yep,
we need to file for any changes from
Yep.
the fall.
Okay.
Which for 60 days is not a big deal for us, especially if we can just run the survey.
Yeah, so, are you able to join us on that call on Wednesday?
Yeah.
That would be so wonderful, I think your experience would be really
So you
helpful
just
there.
want to send me
Yeah,
a link to the,
I'll send you what we've shared with DES, and that way we present them with sort of a united front, but we'll have a lot more, information after that call.
Can you send him a link to the meeting?
yeah,
Yes,
to the Zoom,
yeah.
yeah.
There was a recent email that questioned the location of the panels. I think we're all familiar with that email. Let's clear that up right now. You had a question?
Yeah, I don't like it. I've been pretty clear about my position. My simple explanation is I think they're here because it's the easiest place to put them without too much effort. I think if they were in a different location, from my perspective, they wouldn't be affected by the sun and they'd be out of the way. That's just my point. This right here, this entire area is one of our locations. You can see here on the footprint, we're limited on places to put snow.
Mm-hmm.
And these are right in the path of when we put all the snow. And not that we can't work around them, but
Okay,
I would hate to see them get damaged.
I'm gonna throw my 2 cents worth in. If you folks can find an alternative site that doesn't cost us any more money and creates as much energy, then we'll entertain it. But if this is the only site that's gonna.
You mean site, like location,
No,
Yeah.
or
site
No,
in
on here.
On
in this
property.
property?
In this property, yeah. I mean, because you see, you planted them right over his storage containers and where he pushes snow.
Yeah. I mean,
So if they're
I don't see any other spot. Do you? I guess we're open to your recommendation. I don't see anywhere else to put them. I guess.
Well, I wanted to just expand on that discussion
Sure.
a little bit. How do you plan on trenching for the power access to that pole? The nearest pole we have is here,
Yep.
and then we have one here, and we have one up here.
So yeah, we're in this design right here shows the path. It doesn't actually show the path, but it shows our connection to this pole right there. So we would go pretty much straight at that building, straight across, either parallel to the building or just use the building as our come above ground.
Okay,
And we have to get all the way to this pole right there.
this whole parking lot between this building and this building
Mm-hmm.
is a leach field.
Okay.
So trenching through here is going to be problematic.
I guess it seems like there's some fatal flaws to the whole design of the project.
So, I mean, it would need to be the trenched around
Sure.
back to this pole, which wouldn't be a horrible thing, because in the future, if we ever put a compactor here, we would have power access right there. But I wanted to be here because I want everybody to know that this is the leach field. It's an under pavement leach field,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
chamber system.
Yeah, it's the first I've heard of that.
If we trench that way, we're gonna get into it.
The full of Ledge Hill.
So, Ledge Hill is $467,659.
And that's with the top coat.
I missed that.
We gotta do the top coat, yeah, that's.
So he's still
yeah, so
$87,000 short.
Figuring that I need 75,000 for prep work.
So what's the grand total again?
Ledge Hill Road.
I don't have my calculator in front of
I
me.
have one right here.
Okay,
Do you have what?
all right, so, Ledge Hill is 435,280,
Yeah.
and then add the Pine Mill, 280.
No, let's just stay right
Add
on.
you.
Add your prep work for Ledge Hill.
Oh, okay.
What do you need?
Well, I think we need around 75,000 for prep work.
So we need 510, 280 to do.
Ledge Hill soup to nuts.
Let's call it
Ledge
511.
Hill.
511.
Call it 511.
So, I mean, I'd rather call it 510, but.
Yeah.
195. So you've got a total paving budget then of $705,280.
And what were you guys planning to put in for
Well, we
cement?
had I think 600 was the magic number.
Oh, was, okay, for some reason I was thinking it was 650.
5, 6, 7, we've 582.
Sorry?
582
Or what?
is what we have here.
Oh.
260
yeah,
plus 322 is 582.
right. So,
All of Ledge Hill Road's not getting done this year.
yeah.
Stupid.
We're only doing half of what should.
Well, maybe, I think it's over half, right? Or did you actually cut that number in half
No,
and
I
say
mean,
that's
it's
what we need for
510
budget?
divided by 2 is 260,
Oh,
or 255. So, it was pretty much cut in half. But I don't know, I mean, the number I'm pushing down here is $1,074,000, so we may wanna think about it. All right. I'm all done with Jane. Are we all set with our recalcitrant and obstructionist budget committee? Have you provided them with enough information for them?
I
to be
don't know
satisfied?
what that information, I mean, you saw what I sent, was that enough for them? Nobody knows.
I did get a call today that he really liked the spreadsheet I gave him, and, so I actually completed a lot of data entry. I made a couple, what they call tables, so they can slice it and dice it, and he seems happy. I mean, they got his miles of road, and
Okay. We've done as much as we can, because we're meeting again.
yeah, I don't know what else we can give him.
Are you keeping track of how much time you're putting into making these spreadsheets?
A little bit, yeah.
Where are we
Um,
meeting tomorrow night?
And we've, and you, and you two are working on a system for
We haven't completed it,
2025 to make
Yeah.
this data
And more accessible in the future.
more accessible at the end of the year? Okay.
We can, yeah, if this is working for him and he likes it, yeah, we can do that.
Because the more you do now throughout the year, the easier it'll be
Mhm.
come October.
If I give, Trish a spreadsheet, can she plug your bills into it?
Well, I'm assuming, but I've never done it, so I don't know, but sounds easy.
Well,
Does she know?
you'll have the template and you'll have all the columns and rows listed, and you just have to enter the number.
Okay. Sounds like we should be able to do, she could do that.
Alright. Anything else?
Not for me.
All right. And the big dump truck's back on
Oh, yeah.
the road.
Yeah, we're using it every day.
Sensors have been replaced, and we know the radiator has.
Yep, that's, all working good. It's been on the road. It's on the road
Okay.
6 days a week right now.
Very good. Any other questions from you guys?
I'm all set.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent calendar. Appointments is done. Consent calendar. This week we have an intent to cut for map 42, 2, 18, and 20. A veterans exemption for map 44, 2, 16. A notice of appointment for Lanes End Marina for a boat agent permit, and notice of appointment for Melvin Village Marina boat agent permit. I know that both of you have looked through this folder, and I would accept the motion.
I'll make a motion, we sign the consent calendar items.
I will second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Action items. We need to discuss who we want to dedicate the town report to. Review of warrant articles. Review of a letter to the state regarding the four-way stop,
It's not completed.
which is not, we don't have that yet, okay. And designation of authorities for the clean water, SRF loan. Does the town report, no, the town report does not need to be dedicated to anybody that has deceased. We've dedicated it to
Mhm.
In the
Living.
past, yeah,
Living.
Doesn't need to be.
It's not going to be dedicated.
I would like to suggest that we dedicate this year's town report to a gentleman who has serviced Tufton Borough virtually his entire life. He moved out of the community recently, but he dedicated his life to Tufton Borough, and that would be Bill Stockman.
Have we done Bill? I don't know. I think that's a great idea, but
I don't know if we haven't previously,
we have.
but I would like to throw that out for a recommendation, and certainly accept other recommendations.
I didn't even know about
All right, before we vote on that, can we see if he's been nominated before?
Mhm.
And maybe vote on this for the next meeting? Okay. Thank you.
That's my thesaurus.
You're what?
Historian.
All right. The review of the warrant articles. I've got a couple questions. The Budget Committee and CIP is recommending that we take a small amount from our unassigned fund balance to catch us up on the fire engine, fire department items. I don't see these in here.
I don't- Okay. It doesn't matter where we plug it in.
Yeah,
They wanna, and I'm not married to their program, as you might have noticed from the last meeting.
mm-hmm.
I might wanna preface this whole discussion on, do we need somebody else to be on the budget committee besides me? Cause I don't think I'm having a lot of effect on Mr. Larson. I mean, he exploded last time. I don't see that as productive at all, so. I mean, unless one of you has a different idea of how we can proceed, I'll continue doing battle, but if you think there's something better that can be done or different that can be done.
Well, I guess I would say that the Budget Committee and the CIP, and of course the Selectman's office, including town administrator, worked very hard to put these numbers together. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the selectmen's budget. And we take,
You're confused, you're kind of mixing budget and CIP, and if you wanna do one or the other.
Right, well, one's advisory and one's elected. CIP really doesn't have any authority, but I guess they're all married into this concept of what they want the budget, or the warrant
Yeah.
to look like.
exactly, but that's kind of where I'm going. We have to take into consideration all of the tools at our disposal to make our decisions.
Mhm.
They're not just sitting on the perimeter, throwing numbers at us. They're doing a lot of work, and they're making recommendations. And I think we should take those recommendations seriously.
I also think I like the recommendations that are made. I think this is probably a good pattern to try to establish. There's no way to establish a 10-year plan, and they don't believe me when I say that, but when you're no longer a selectman and I'm no longer a selectman and David's no longer a selectman, the plans are like what Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get it in the face. So, I mean,
But-
I think starting some capital reserves is good. I can't get them over the hump of the fire engine capital reserve has to be split in two. It can't be one, and you and I discussed that.
I understand the logic between the fire engine that we currently have a lease for and what we're saving for in the future. I agree that those two should be separate for a couple of reasons. Bottom line of those two is going to be the same, but I think that they should be separate because they're two separate. There's two separate mechanisms in play.
Mhm.
I've got $411,000 going into the fire department on my list that I kind of
Mm-hmm.
hand scratch. But if we were to get back to the warrant, I guess we're not gonna have an answer on whether I'm gonna stay. But if we were to do the $510,000 paving of Ledge Hill and $195,000 paving of,
Pine Mill.
and working down the list, make the fire engine payment of $200,942. Start a capital reserve fund for the next fire engine at $50,000. SCBA and ancillary equipment at $60,000. Airboat at $100,000. Police vehicle at $40,000. Body cameras at $34,000. Highway garage at $140,000. Town truck, which we need to replace in 6 years, at $40,000. Transfer station roof at $42,000. Transfer station equipment at $50,000. And the 19 Mile Brook study at $10,573. I'm at $1,487,441. And then if we wash the contingency fund, it goes in and out of the fund balance, and then I've only plugged $25,000 into something. I put it on the capital reserve for the fire engine, but you can put it anywhere, it doesn't really matter.
So you're suggesting doing the entire of Ledge Hill Road
All I'm
this year?
saying is I've come up with a number. So now you got $100,000 that's come off of it from the fund balance. So now you're at $1,387,441. And all the numbers, am I right in thinking this, Audrey? All of the numbers that you have typed in under current funds were not subtracted from the need, right?
They were,
That would be added to the current warrant articles, right?
no, like the police vehicle, you're putting that in a capital reserve fund,
Right,
and the reserve fund already has 60, so your ask is only
Right.
40.
right.
Right. So that would total out to 107,419.
I didn't
Right.
think we needed
Right.
107 for a police vehicle.
start there.
I thought
I
the
don't-
number was
I'm
closer
not
to
sure.
90,
Yeah, I'm not sure that we do need $107,000.
That's correct.
which is what is correct.
You only need about 90.
Okay, so let's
So $17,000 is gonna come off of that figure, so now we're gonna be down to
what?
Wait, 17
You don't
from
wanna-
what?
You don't wanna zero it out.
23,000. 23,000 for the vehicle, police vehicle fund,
23?
plus.
Something like that. It's a little under that, but yes.
Well, I don't know, 20?
No, do like 25, cause you wanna leave a couple thousand in there to keep the fund open.
Okay, 25.
So we're,
That's,
we're gonna make that 40,000 25,000?
Yeah.
So that's a negative 15,000, okay, off of our total. The,
And if you look at the SCBA,
yeah,
I double checked with Chief because the number I had in the asks, I think I gave you all a copy of the asks, was 75. And so I double checked with him and he said that 75 includes the 15 that's already in that fund. So that's why I put 60.
so that fund will be empty at the end of the year?
Yep, and it should be, that one should be.
Which one?
SCBA.
Cause the wording that CIP came up with was, I'll read it to you, if I can find it, I'm sure I have it right here. That the SCBA is in the vital equipment. So it's SCBA extraction tools, heart monitors, mobile radios, starting at 16, 30,000 from taxes, 30, no, forget that. So they were looking for 60 on that line item. But it's gonna mean there's nothing in there next year. Nothing-
Right, what they wanna do is start an equipment capital reserve for fire. There's already a SCBA, capital reserve fund.
Yeah, but we have to have another warrant article for,
So then you would wanna start another warrant article for emergency equipment. Future.
that's not how this reads. It's starting with $16,000 and you got 15,550, right? And then they wanna put $60,000 in addition to that in your expense for 25 to 60,000. So the capital reserve account, I mean, unless we put more money than $60,000 in there, there's not gonna be a capital reserve account left. Or we have to start another warrant article.
Yeah, I think what I read, let me double check the report, was that they were pushing it into 26,
Pushing what into
the
26?
SCBA.
Well, they can't, cause the machine doesn't work. Machine's out of warranty or whatever. I mean, isn't that what the fire chief told us? That it's the charging machine for their oxygen.
Yeah, this sheet shows it this year
Yeah,
in 25,
The
75,
one I gave you,
this one right here.
that's the asks, that's not the CIP recommendation. I wanted you to see what they asked, and then you have your CIP report that says what they're recommending. So,
so they want the money to sit there without the plan?
I thought what I just read on page 19 of their report. They're recommending
Will need to be replaced in 2025 at an estimated cost of $73,000.
So they're recommending creating a fire department vital equipment and have a town warrant article, put in 60,000, 30 from, and then a warrant article to expend it.
it's 2026 and the remaining years that they want to put $30,000 in it. So it looks like they're going to zero it out this year, or maybe we'll leave $1 in it to keep the account open, and then next year they start building it back up again.
So there's already a capital reserve fund out there,
But it's only for the SCBA,
and that's the only thing we're buying this year.
right?
Because
So we don't have
it's
to-
gonna be like the
So
firemen.
the only way we could accomplish the goal of having a vital equipment line is to create a different line.
Right,
Right, and then next year, if there's any money left in the SCBA fund, even if it's $2,
resolve it,
we just
dissolve it,
resolve it, exactly, move it over or whatever.
dissolve it, yeah.
So we should probably not create the account this year, or do you want to create the account this year?
I'll leave it alone. I mean, we're already creating a fire engine capital reserve and an airboat and a SCBA. I mean, I think at some point in time, we're gonna run into some resistance. To say nothing about it.
Yeah, but it'll be less complicated if we leave it alone this year.
Yeah.
My opinion about it, is that they did awesome work, and I really like all the capital reserves.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that Mr. Oriston wants to see, have the town people start seeing the same number every year, so you'll always see 60,000 for, the emergency equipment, but I think you need to build up to those numbers, so if there's no vital equipment next year, start that capital reserve, so that you'll start having it, but,
Well, you have the SCBA, I mean, you could theoretically say, okay, we're gonna replace the SCBA warrant article that we're spending out this year with another $60,000 next year and call it major equipment or whatever, emergency equipment.
I just don't
Yeah, it
know
won't-
if you can do them all in 1 year.
I mean, the ask was for 415,000, right? 451,000, I'm at 410,000.
And it's gonna be easy to do this in 2027 when you've paid off the fire station, because you're gonna not be impacting the taxpayers as much, so I love the concept of it, I think you need to build up to it,
Yeah, well, we kind of are.
yeah.
I guess all I'm saying is that and we've probably already cumulatively said this, is we don't need to create that account this year. We can create it next year.
We have five
leave the-
capital reserve accounts we're creating this year.
Yeah, leave the SCBA account alone for this year, eliminate it next year, and then create the new equipment account.
When is the SCBA going to be actually utilized in 2025 or
Yeah.
2026?
This year.
25, yeah.
Yeah, they want to replace
So
that this
then-
year.
We leave it in. So by the end of this year, though, it goes away.
Mhm.
After
It'll be spent.
It'll be spent.
Yeah.
Are we? But you're saying let's get rid of it,
Well, it won't until the next town meeting.
right?
Just by the making things happen. It'll be spent down
Mm-hmm.
to buy it, and then the next town meeting in 26. That's when the accounts will get rearranged or renamed.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll reduce this by $15,000.
Which one?
The whole thing, that's the only thing we've done is
Oh.
change one number so far.
The
Yeah.
police
The
vehicle.
police
Police
vehicle.
vehicle.
Yeah.
And you want to, the airboat, you wanna call that the start of the emergency vehicles and boats capital reserve. And then with the selectmen as agents to expend, and then buy the boat from that.
And it'll be empty.
Do you want to take the 15,000 that we just took off of the police vehicle fund and put that in the town truck fund
I mean, it
to
doesn't matter.
to kick it off?
I mean, it doesn't matter how we do it. I mean, if you're looking at a grand, I've got a grand total currently of $1,372,000, which we haven't,
What was the town truck number?
40,000,
40?
40,000,
The town truck?
yeah.
What the
That
heck
gives
is
us $240,000 at the end of 6 years, and the last truck cost $290,000.
Annual capital reserve, yeah, they wanted to put, yeah, 42,000.
And so far, I've only taken $25,000 out of the fund, $25,000 out of the fund balance. So,
How are we doing on the fund balance if we take the 75? It seems like we're,
well, the 75's going back in, cause we didn't use it,
the contingency from last year.
right?
We didn't spend any of that? Yeah, we did.
Like 4,000.
Yeah.
No,
Wasn't
because
a
it
lot.
went into other places.
It wasn't a lot.
Okay. You found other revenue sources for the items we needed.
Including the highway?
That's why they're over on your budget to actual.
Yeah,
I didn't put stuff there.
but the whole budget isn't over. So I guess my two questions would be, how much is actually in the fund balance? What's our revenue projection for 2025?
Well, this, I don't know when you created this,
That's
but
about a
this,
month old, isn't it?
it says there was, whenever this was created, there was call it $838,000 in the fund balance.
Okay. Well, let's just use that for a number. So we're putting money back in the fund balance to the tune of 70,000.
Yeah.
Right? If you use 4, let's call it 5 to make it easy. So now you're at 908,000. We don't know what our other revenues coming in. Is there anything else that's gonna hit the? Alright, let's say we have 900,000, so now we need to take out 75 for the contingency. How much more than that do you wanna take out?
What was the first number that you put in?
838,000
Yeah,
plus 70, cause you spent 5,000 of the 75.
okay.
That gives you 908. Now you take 75 out of that for the contingency, and how much additional fund balance do we wanna use up?
Well, they're asking for 95,000. If I'm looking at the right chart on page 12. Am I looking at the right chart? I think I am. Capital Reserve Summary 2025.
Yes.
So, so I guess looking at this, I want to correct what I said earlier. They are putting $30,000 or suggesting to put $30,000 from the unassigned fund balance into the fire department vital capital equipment fund. So they are talking about creating that this year.
Yeah, but I mean, we're planning on, we've got 60 in our warrant, and that's what they have on their sheet. And let's not get confused about what we wanna establish versus what we wanna buy. And then so what we wanna buy is gonna cost us $1,000,004. how much of that do we wanna pay for with the fund balance?
Well, the fund balance isn't as high as I would like to see it.
No, it's not gonna be.
No.
They took $176,000 out of last year's budget.
Right.
I haven't done the calculation for this year, but let's say it's another 125 or 150. I mean, there's $300,000 that didn't go back into the fund balance for this activity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the argument that I'm gonna continue to have with Mr. Rorson, is these activities are married when it hits this table. You can't say, let's take money out of the fund balance when you don't allow any money to go into the fund balance. You know, if there's $60,000 or $80,000 left this year, they've already used it up.
You're right. I mentioned that at the budget committee meeting last
Right.
week, that we gotta be very, very careful
Right.
about drawing down the fund balance, because if we're getting close to zero-based budgeting, which I think is a mistake,
Yeah,
we're not gonna have any money to put into the fund balance
Right.
next year.
Then where do you
next
go?
year.
Yeah. Yeah, then you don't have anything.
How,
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna ask, how close did we get to spend this year?
Well, you have the new budget to actual. in your folder. Not all the bills are in, I still have.
Well, we're pretty
waste
close.
management and credit card, yes.
95%. According to this report, there's $225,000 that potentially could hit the unassigned fund balance,
But all the bills haven't been.
but we haven't paid everything yet.
Mm. Do we have any idea what those numbers are? That's unpaid?
I don't, I have no
No,
idea waste
okay.
management and, credit card.
So that'll get us just over $100,000, $1 million. It'll get us up to like 1.1
Yeah,
if it all were to hit,
yeah,
but it's not all going to hit.
yeah.
Where, I guess the first question that I have is, where, what's the lowest reasonable number to be at the fund balance?
0.
No, with a buffer.
The state likes to see 5%
Yeah.
Say again?
10%.
5% of our
operating budget.
operating budget,
Okay.
which is what?
Is the operating budget
It's
more
about,
or-
what, about $4.5 billion?
Yeah.
So $250,000. That's a pretty low number. 5% is
Yeah, I don't know.
$250,000.
That doesn't sound right.
Doesn't sound right
It's-
either.
Well, am I reading this
Maybe
right?
it's the whole warrant.
That our budget is 4.9?
Is my math wrong? Is 5% of $5 million 250,000?
No, 10% is 500,000.
That's right.
Okay.
So half of that is
5%,
250,000.
250.
Yeah, I think that's
That's a pretty low number.
it's an.
That's a scary low number.
Yeah,
Because if you have any sort of macroeconomic impact that was going to require us to moderate the taxes,
Mm-hmm.
you need $500,000 to be sitting there waiting, and we don't have. And I won't get into that. At any rate, I think if you took $130,000 plus the 75 for the contingency.
I think
So 130,000 active money off of the warrant, that leaves you with $703,000.
I think we should have somewhere between 10 and 15% of our operating
Well,
budget.
10 is a half a mil.
Half a mil. 15 is 750.
750. Yeah.
So if they want to draw 90, what did I say that number was?
but
90
you also use this to reduce taxes.
They want to draw $95,000 this year, which is a one-time hit. And let's say we have let's not go with 1.1. Let's say we have $1 million after the bills are paid. So that brings us down to 900 if we give them the 95,000. And then you're suggesting using how much?
130,000.
So that'll bring us,
Actually, 130 plus 75, so 205,000.
so that'll bring us down to
703.
700,000, which is probably right
That's-
about where we should be.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion,
We can have that discussion some other day.
What are you thinking the number is?
I think the right number is somewhere between 900 and $1 million.
to keep,
What are you basing that on?
Just on, okay, so if you have to raise $4 million or however much money we have to raise in taxes and all the school funds and all the rest of that shit, in order to significantly impact your taxes, you need to do it with $250,000 increments. You know, $100,000 doesn't push the number far enough. That's the only reason I mentioned that.
So-
Plus, if you really need to get over this idea that we have to have an itemized thing in this that declares what we're gonna buy. You need to get over that, Bob. We don't have an itemized piece for that meter at the Central Park. That should be the least of our concerns. We can't be wrestled into this position where we have to spend specifically for line items and nothing else. And if you don't have a fund balance going forward, then if something happens, for instance, the cost of a dump truck goes to $350,000, you don't have any room to, you've now got $240,000 saved after 6 years. But are you gonna put up a $100,000 warrant article for a truck that you've been saving for? I mean, those are the situations where you need to have the capital saved. I mean, I'd certainly rather have $1 million in the capital reserve or in the fund balance than I would have 1,000 different savings accounts. That's just me.
and going back a couple of sentences,
Okay.
I am under the belief that if you don't budget for it, you shouldn't be spending it. Maybe it costs $3,000-4,000 to put an electrical service at the central station. If we can do it this year, great. But if we haven't budgeted for it, I don't see how we can plan for it or do it unless money falls out of the sky.
Okay, then, everything cannot be monetarily driven. So if for some other external reason we need something that costs $3,000. In Dennis's case, he hasn't even brought up his fund, his recreational fund. He hasn't mentioned it when it comes to that, but that should be part of the program. I mean, I don't think it's gonna cost $3,000 or $4,000, but.
I'm just throwing that out as
Yeah.
just for discussion.
But I mean, that's the sort of thing that could be paid for extracurricularly, not out of this budget that we're driving here.
Right?
But he's got money for maintenance in his budget. I mean, there's places, it doesn't, all I'm saying is it doesn't specifically draw or point out a electrical service at Central Park. And it wasn't his presentation for his budget, but it still is an available purchase out of his budget. And maybe we're gonna forever disagree on that.
No, I mean, if it's doable, it's doable. But I see, budgeting. You budget for what you anticipate spending.
Right.
You base your budget on that. Is there a little bit of buffer in every budget? Sure, there has to be.
And there's no way that you can budget today for what's gonna happen next September.
Agreed.
No way.
Agreed.
You know, things come up. You know?
That's clear.
Yeah,
Shit happens.
yeah.
But the point being is, if we didn't budget for it, we shouldn't be looking at spending it. That's like spending money you don't have. At the end of the year, if we have some extra money and we can do something like that, great.
Right. Or if you can plug it into the budget that he has, in combination with his recreational funding.
Right.
I mean, there's ways to get things done.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that.
I guess I'll agree to $200,000, but having a hard time with bringing the fund balance any lower than that.
Any lower than what?
Then what?
That brings it down to 703,000 in my estimation.
Are you okay with that 703? Or are you saying that's too low?
I think we're not gonna make the decision tonight, but I think that's okay. The other person that needs to weigh in on it is Jack, our treasurer, cause he gets a little animated about that stuff
Mhm.
too. And it would be nice to know where we end up on the operating budget, cause I can't do the tax rate until, any of us can do the tax rate until the budget's done.
If we bring the fund balance down to around $700,000, it may be a little bit tighter than what you want to see it, but that gets the job done,
Yeah.
right?
But
But
it's-
it's this year's job done. The problem is as you mentioned at the last budget meeting, it doesn't help if we can't replenish the fund, then that's the last time we get to use it, I guess. I don't know.
So your point being that we're tightening the budget so much this year that
And last year,
that we won't have enough left over to put anything into the fund
right?
going at the end of this year.
At the end of this year, I don't know how much we have for bills left to pay. I don't know what's gonna come in between now and the end of the month. But the report that you ran on Friday shows, let's just round it to $225,000.
Right.
Say,
Say
Because-
25 is taken off.
or even $100,000.
Yeah.
Even if there's $100,000 worth of bills to pay, that's 125 that will be going into the fund.
Which is currently at
830
830.
ish, 830 ish.
Right, but we're taking out what? The
95.
just the 95?
No, 95 for the draw for the to bring us up to speed on the capital reserve accounts that we want to create.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a kickstart because we're behind the 8 ball, and the money that Chip is suggesting that we take out.
Well, I'm just saying that we can take it out. If you look at, I'm looking at a historical on our fund balance as well, but
I have a history of the fund balance
do you?
right here. Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Right here. So we've got an 8 or 9,000, and we went down to 778 in 21, but then it went back to $1.2 million, $1 million more.
You're going in the wrong direction.
This is it's going from here to here.
Either way, okay, it's going 874, and now,
That would be historically low. So I mean, if we go for that 703 number, it would be historically low.
Mm-hmm.
So not only would we be skirting, bringing the budget to a fairly tight place,
Mm-hmm.
we'd also have a contingency or a fund balance that would be historically low.
But also 3 times what the state recommends that we have.
Yeah, but so then the question we have to ask ourselves is that smart? Just because the state recommends it, is that smart?
Yeah, that's why I'm suggesting 10 to 15%. 15% puts us at $750,000. And if we're close to that, I think we're in good shape. I wouldn't want to see it get any lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
okay, just,
So, but do you see my point? My point is that we've got a budget really tight, and now we're bringing
Mm-hmm.
that fund balance super tight as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's a double. To me, in my mind, that's a double
Double-edged
whammy.
sword. It's a double-edged sword.
and the thing you have
Yes,
to
it is.
remember about, state recommendation, they're dealing with 140 towns,
Mm-hmm.
and a good number of them do what you do in the county. You borrow money mid-year to pay for bills, you you know, you do this whole different way of financing things. We don't do
But
that.
we don't borrow money.
We don't borrow money.
There's no
Except for fire
interest
trucks.
paid, there's no TAN.
No, tax anticipation notes and that sort of thing.
Right.
We don't do any of that. So other towns do.
So-
So they're, you know, saying 5% is the recommended number, well, maybe 5%'s okay as long as you got a TAN setup going on,
Mm-hmm.
that you can plug some money into your system that way. We don't have that. I mean, and maybe I'm just used to having 800 or $1 million in the reserve account. I think it's a fair representation of what we might need. If it weren't, it would be $2 million in there right now. I mean, or 2 years ago, it would have been $2 million, or $3 million in that account. But every October during that period of time, we looked at what was in there and whether or not the economy generated some need for us to reduce the taxes. We still drove the tax number down if we had the capital in there to do it. You know,
But we won't have that this year.
well, we will, but I mean, how low do you wanna go?
Well, that's just it.
There's no absolute zero.
Again, we're talking about a historically low number in the fund balance if we go to 750, and you know, we as a town we've been fairly done well in staying out of that borrowing money case. I
Well, and there's external factors we have no control over. I mean, what happens when that Superior Court case goes to the Supreme Court over the funding of education in New Hampshire, and all of a sudden we have to pay an additional $3 million in school taxes. Well, it doesn't mean the town budget went up, but it certainly means your taxes went up.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to mitigate that increase is to do it through the fund balance. I mean, it's an external problem that you can't solve. You can sue them, I guess, but that's not gonna solve anything this year.
So go back to the money that you were talking about drawing from the fund balance. How much and what for?
Well, what I had written down, scratching, was obviously the 75,000 for the contingency, or we can not do that.
Well,
And then-
again, but that's an in and an out. We may or may not
Right.
spend it.
Right,
We didn't this year. We spent some of it, but not much.
right. And then I was just plugging in 130,000 because I was trying to round the numbers off, but
To what? Just to reduce the tax?
no. To plug in against the warrant, I thought that was the question.
The fire engine CRF, you wanna move that to contingency?
I'm sorry.
How about the fire engine CRF?
Yeah,
So that's 100 and.
move that to contingent. Move that to what?
Unassigned fund balance.
Unassigned fund balance, sorry.
That 40,000?
Have that chip up to 250.
we had moved 25 out there, but I had increased it to 50. Yeah, I mean, we're just sort of messing with it at this point. I mean, we're never gonna get close to that number that they'd like to see put in from that fund balance.
Well, you're talking about putting 50 in. They're only talking about putting 30 in.
No, what are they talking about for the whole budget?
For the whole
warrant.
budget, 95,000.
This year.
30 for the fire engines,
Yeah.
35 for the emergency vehicles and boats,
95,000 plus 70.
and 30 for the vital capital equipment.
So it's $170,000 is what they're looking for.
And
So 170, 273. So that keeps us right around our current balance then. If we end up at the end of the year after the bills are paid,
878, maybe.
with $1 million,
Yeah.
and you take out 170, That puts us right where we are now.
Right.
And that's without taking anything out to reduce the tax rate, which we did last year. We took out $100,000 last year, didn't we?
Not until October. We don't have to worry about that problem until then.
Okay.
So, I guess. And your position, Audrey, was to make the, pay for the fire engine capital reserve through the,
Unassigned fund balance. Well, they were anyways, $30,000.
Yeah.
On page 12,
I know, and they have the full vehicle in there, so they're saying 45 at the end of the year.
if our numbers are close, and do you agree that they're close?
I'm within $100,000 of their
Why
total,
don't we just follow their recommendation?
because it's an unworkable way to do things.
In what way?
Well, the way they structure the warrant articles.
We want to separate, I agree with you that we want to separate our lease payment,
Okay.
okay? I agree with you
They
there.
don't include the $75,000 contingency. Maybe we'll eliminate it. Maybe the budget committee will eliminate that. Although they don't get to do that, we can put the warrant for the 75 out there.
I don't think we should eliminate that. I think we should leave it.
I think we have to if we're gonna get the budget driven down all the time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what do they have for pavement?
What page are you on?
Highway says 21. Is that, I'm assuming that falls under highway, but
It's on page 23.
No, it's under selectmen, I think.
Yeah, it's 500 something thousand. 583.
Where are you?
On page 13, under major roads, they recommend having it combined, for 580.
Yeah. And that discussion is just, you have to get to the point where they have all of these recommendations, but we went through that whole scenario of underfunding the neighborhood roads and deciding to separate them. The idea of flatlining the pavement goes totally against the pavement study that we've had done, that we keep referring to from time to time. It's like the COVID study. But they're at 500, we're at 705,000 for paving.
If you do Ledge Hill Road completely.
completely. Yep.
Right. Right.
So I had done the ask for 746, because I had Ledge Hill and neighborhood roads in their entirety, Pine Mill Road.
See, I had 195 for neighborhood paving.
That's taken off the $92,000 for finish coat.
Yeah,
So you want
Which we're gonna need the
286?
following year.
Right. I'm okay with taking that 92 off and doing the finish coat
So
in
at any rate,
the following year.
and maybe this is where the problem was, this is a discussion that we're having about what we wanna spend money on. We've decided we wanna spend, I'm just saying for argument's sake, we wanna spend $705,000 on paving. That puts other things at risk from not getting funded, like a separate machinery account for the fire department. It maybe puts less money into the savings account for the second fire engine. Because we've got a $200,000 increase in our paving budget that we wanna fund this year. Or,
and I think if you don't do a full road like Ledge Hill, it's, being penny wise and dollar,
Pennywise, pound foolish.
yeah, that's it.
so we have pound
start up and do a small section and then move over to Sodom, and you say, okay, we can only do half of Sodom now because we had to finish that little bit here,
It's gonna cost more money in the long run
right?
to split it up. What's the problem with just adding on the extra to the bottom line and asking the people for it?
Right?
Yeah, that's
What do you
fine,
say?
Bob, until they have to pay the tax bill. It's
I know, it all comes
So
out.
How are you gonna justify that? I'm not gonna justify a dollar increase to taxes. It's not gonna happen.
Okay,
And I don't think we should have CIP and the budget committee forcing us into that position. Because the only way budget committee can accomplish this is by cutting the operating budget, which just pushes us further into a hole. Because, as we've said over and over, it does not let us replenish the fund balance in order to do these capital projects. I mean, if I would take $100,000 out of the fund balance and throw it at paving, you know?
but then you're definitely dipping us out of the $800,000 fund balance
No,
down
we've
to
got
that.
$130,000. We both did the same calculation. It seems as though we have $130,000 worth of, after
The bills are paid.
contingency fund is funded. After that, we got $130,000 we can mess around with out of the fund balance and stay relatively close to $800,000. So if we're gonna do that, I'd throw $30,000 at the fire engine and $100,000 at paving. That's just the way I would look at it, but.
Rather than leaving it in the fund balance?
We have to drive this thing.
I'm just
down.
asking the questions.
Okay, we have to drive the total down somewhere in the $1.3 million range,
Mm-hmm.
or we're gonna, you won't have a problem at town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
They'll vote for all of these little numbers. But when they get their tax bill.
That is a very, very true statement. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, what warrant articles that get put out there get passed.
Right. I mean, we'd have a police station today if it weren't for one element,
Correct.
but, so.
Yeah.
I realize that there's this undercurrent that we don't sit around and chat about how we're gonna drive this bus, but that's exactly what we're elected to do. We need to stay within the parameters that have been set up. Or, I mean, you're up for election, March, don't run. I mean, they don't have to worry about listening to it. You can be out on the street and blame me. Can't blame David because he just started. At any rate, I think if we're not gonna send them the warrant today, cause they're meeting tomorrow.
Well, we can. We're still working on this.
But give them
Why can't we?
12 hours notice.
Well, we can give it to them. They're not going to vote on it tomorrow, but they can start digesting it, which I think is what they want to do.
Okay.
I think we should work on it and give them something tomorrow. Other than if we don't, it's just gonna it's gonna increase tensions.
How much of a distraction is it going to create tomorrow night? In other words, tomorrow's already a pretty busy night, isn't it?
Yeah, but they've made it clear that they would like these numbers tomorrow night, and I'd like to do my best to give it to them.
Yeah, we can give them what we have and say it's as fleshed out as we could do in the period of time we had.
Well, we can. 2 reasons not to. One is they're not driving the bus, and I'm sick of them trying to drive the bus, and I'm gonna get pissed off about it pretty soon. Secondly, there's no way we can finalize this without knowing what our final expenses are and what the final operating budget is. We should have had the operating budget by now, except for this micromanagement craziness. presented a budget that was 4.5% higher than the budget that was presented last year. It's not good enough. We gotta spend a whole season creating this mountain of schedules and spreadsheets and all the rest of it to get to what point, where are we gonna end up on the operating budget? Cause it needs to be a combined thing, and we need to know what that's gonna be. We may have more room, who knows, but we may have less room, cause we don't know what we're getting back on our, we also don't know what the income is coming in. You know,
Whatever we present them tomorrow night may not be etched in stone.
it is definitely not etched in stone, what they're gonna do
But
with
it's gonna be,
that-
it's gonna be a draft. They're gonna work on it, we're gonna work, we could potentially work on it more.
And whatever we present them, let's actually put draft on it.
or
Right, right.
I'm quite serious.
It's, it
No,
does.
I'm not quite clear what I heard in.
I don't think we should give them anything.
I don't-
All that's gonna
Planning
do
on it.
is create a why didn't you do it my way argument. And we haven't finished with our product yet. So why are we spending time on that bullshit? I mean, we know, we need to get this figured out from our point of view. Figure out our income level from Audrey at some point in time, and finalize the operating budget so we know what we're working on.
How about if we give them, how about if we work on the, follow my train of thought here. Work on this tonight, get them a draft that's got numbers, that's got a presentation, with them knowing that we're still waiting for our final numbers to come in, and it could all change. But it's something to work with, something to start with.
Yeah, they have, I'd give it to them on the night of the budget hearing, if I had my way at this point in time. I mean, the thing you have to remember, Bob, is it doesn't matter what they think. We're being very collegial about accepting reports and advice and all the efforts that they put in. That's wonderful stuff. But at the end of the day, nobody's gonna call them when their taxes go up. Nobody's gonna call them when their road doesn't get plowed. Nobody's gonna call them when, the police don't show up on time. So we have to remember not to, just say, okay, fine, whatever you guys say is fine with us. I'm not ready to do that. I'll give them $1.4 million. Our total warrant comes to $1,372,000. And it includes everything you've asked for. That's all I'm willing to give them. If you want to vote to give them more, you two vote for to give them more, but I'm not voting.
Run down your numbers again, so I can write them down. Contingency,
75,000,
major paving,
510,280,
510 to 80.
When you read them, can you also put your recommendation of what's coming from contingency?
I will.
Thank you.
Is there any money from major paving coming from contingency? In
Whatever
your
we have
in your eyes?
in my eyes,
Yes.
it'd be $100,000.
Neighborhood paving.
195.
Any money coming from
No.
unassigned balance? Okay. Curtis Road culverts.
14,646.
Fire engine payment.
209.42.
Fire department
Capital reserve.
capital reserve fund.
50,000.
Any kind of coming from unassigned.
25.
SCBA.
60,000.
Well, 59, 450, or
No, I
do you
was
want
just
to
at 60.
round it to 60? Okay. Any of that coming from
No.
unassigned? All right. Airboat.
100,000.
Any of that coming from unassigned?
Nope.
Police vehicle.
25,000.
Any of that coming from unassigned?
Nope.
Body worn cameras.
34,000.
Any of that from unassigned?
No.
Highway garage.
I'm sorry. Highway truck would be the next one.
You want to create another
highway,
line?
Highway garage, 140.
Okay. Do you want to put the highway truck underneath that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Where the compactors is, right? Okay.
Right.
Okay, highway truck,
40,000.
40. Any of that from unassigned?
Nope.
Okay, compacted buildings,
No,
that's 0 this
yeah,
year.
transfer.
Transfer station roof,
42,000.
any of that from unassigned?
Nope.
Transfer station equipment, capital equipment,
50,000.
any of that from unassigned?
Nope.
Cemetery,
Nothing.
no. 19 Milebrook study,
10,573.
573, and none of that from unassigned, right?
Right.
Okay, so we have
So we have 100
110,000
125.
from unassigned.
125 plus 75.
I have 75, 10, and 25. That's 110 in my
Yeah,
math.
10 is 100.
The 10 is 100, Bobby.
You forgot a 0.
in major paving.
Oh.
Under major paving.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I
So
forgot a 0.
So we're at
$200,000.
200,000. 2, 0, 0, 0. Okay. And I got to do the math for the rest.
no. Why did people wait till this meeting to contact me? What are you getting for a number, Bob?
1472 441.
Oh. I'm off by two grand.
Did you take off the amount from the fund balance?
No, that's
That's just the total under
that's
the
just the
tax
total.
line.
Right.
1472 441.
Okay, I have the same. Well, I have 1474 instead of 1472, but I probably made an input error.
1487.
Okay.
That was scratching away.
So 1472 441
Minus 200,000.
minus 200,000.
Or did you add the 75 on the top of that first line?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
included that.
Well, that's the
That comes to 200,000.
I know, but when you're doing your tax,
I just added the two columns, the taxation column and the unassigned fund balance column.
So the 75 is not on the taxation column.
No, it's not.
So it's 125,000 less than your grand total.
Where? What?
I'm missing something.
Okay,
I just added the two columns. The taxation column I added up, and I got 1472 441.
okay.
And then the unassigned fund balance column I added up, and I
Which
got
is
200,000.
Right, but you didn't, you're taking a $75,000 credit that you don't deserve. In other words, you have to put in the contingency fund on the taxation side, 75,000. And then unfunded balance, so use the.
Wait a minute, talk me through that.
Okay, the warrant article is gonna read to create a contingency fund for $75,000 to be funded by the undesignated fund balance of 75,000.
Yeah.
So it's a zeroed out,
Yeah?
okay, but it's still there as a gross amount. So it needs to be there on your taxation side and canceled out by the unfunded balance, undesignated fund balance on this side. So at the end, the bottom line is a zero increase there.
So,
Same with the paving, you're at 510,280. The actual cost is gonna be $410,280 against taxes. So the only thing you need to do is take the gross that you got in your first calculation.
We didn't do gross, we wrote it separately, I think.
I'm sorry, I used that term. The total you got for the taxation column,
Mm-hmm.
1,400,000.
Yeah, 1,472, yeah.
And subtract 125,000 from that.
Where's the other 50,000? I see the 75. I understand
Yeah,
you zeroing out those two.
yeah,
Where does the other
that was all we had.
50,000? Huh?
There was only 200,000 coming out of the fund balance. Right?
Yeah?
100 for paving, 75 for contingency, and 25 for a fire engine.
Correct. So we take
200,000.
so we zero out the 75. That leaves 125,
Right.
and then we take the 125 off the bottom line,
Right.
right?
That will tell you exactly.
And that
will,
okay.
that will give you the gross impact
Okay.
on the warrant.
All right. So
1,470,000.
hold on. So I'm going to subtract 75,000
Wait, no.
from that, which to zero that out, and that brings us to 1.397, and then subtract 125 from that.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see, 1,397,441. You just told me to
Add the 75 in to the total that you have.
add it in
Into the taxation.
into the taxation column.
Right.
So that would have been basically 150, 149, something like that.
Gotcha. Okay, 1,547,441.
Okay, 1,547,441.
47441.
Is that enough numbers? Yep. Now,
Now
from
subtract
that, take
125.
200 No, take 200,000. Because now you've added the contingency back in, and now you're going to take it out again.
Okay.
So you're at $1,347,441.
$1,347,441.
Yep.
1,347,441.
At this point, we've taken 200,000 out of the unfunded balance,
Right.
which brings us down to 637.
And then we put 70,000 back in of the contingency we didn't spend this year.
Okay.
So now we're back up to 707, right?
Yeah, and add in, let's say, $125,000 from.
It's going to be more than that. I don't think we have that.
I'm just being conservative.
Yeah.
Today,
which would be great because then it would mean that our unfunded balance would be even higher.
right,
So
right. I think we're okay.
I think so, Bob. I'll go with you on that. I'm not about to enter into a discussion about this tomorrow night. If it comes up, I won't talk about it. I think that might be the easiest way to do it.
Is this fresh?
That's exactly what we said, Bob.
it's still warm.
$1,347,441.
Except you didn't put the 75,000 in the contingency line
Right.
top, but that's okay.
The negative?
She didn't zero it out the way we would. But
Right.
yeah, no, this is wrong.
This is what?
Can't take 200 out.
Only if you put the 75 back in.
Yeah,
You got to put
Yeah,
the.
that's gonna go in by default though,
all right.
when the accountants do it, it's gonna go back in at the end of 2024.
Okay. All right. As long as we know.
And now we need to know whether or not we can afford that. And the only way we'll know that is if we have a couple more numbers. And one of them
I know, I'm
is,
trying.
well, you keep
Right.
trying, but it's also the budget committee needs to finalize some budgets.
Right,
I think we can present this to them tomorrow night. Why not?
Fine, I just.
But it's a draft. This is not etched in stone. They got to understand that it's not etched in stone. The final numbers for the year could have an effect on this.
I personally would cut the fire engine and the highway truck in half and build them up later.
Oh, you're
That's
$100,000 short on the highway paving.
I am?
Oh, yeah, you are.
What is the highway pavement?
510.
Right,
510.
halves and hundreds in the unassigned fund balance.
Can't do it that way. Well, I see how you did it.
But then you can't, then you can't do the math down at the bottom.
Unassigned fund balance is just a range of numbers here.
Right.
The taxation piece is the reality of the world. How
Yeah.
we get there is the other side. Okay.
So should it have been 510 and
Yeah.
100?
Yeah.
Come on, 100? Okay,
Yep. 510.
510.
Well, we were 510 and then 100 from the fund balance, but we got to the same 1,347,000.
Well, not if I add 100,000 back into.
And the fire engine capital reserve fund, you gotta leave that at 50.
Right, it's 50/50.
Yeah, you show 25.
And 25 in unassigned fund balance.
Yeah, but you gotta show the 50.
Yeah, it's 50,
I know, and that's how the warrant articles will be worded, so I can put
50,000.
I can put a gross column in here, total. That's
Well,
what
the
you want.
warrant's gotta read 50,000,
It
20,000.
Yes. it
Right.
will.
Police vehicle, and police vehicle 25. Highway truck 40. Yeah, there's just those two numbers have to be changed. Major paving, you gotta put in 510, 280. And fire engine capital reserve at 50.
Right.
To show your gross amount.
And then show the gross at the bottom. Then you can subtract the 200,000.
Right.
Okay, so you want a gross and then a taxation and
Yep.
Yep, and that'll show the
do
net,
that.
and then that'll show the net to the taxpayer. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I was doing this for your working copy.
Okay. Yeah.
Gosh, we should. In this day and age, we should have a screen right there with a spreadsheet.
It's not in the budget. So I did, mention to Mr. Royston when he was in today that, like on software, I have maybe a $300 buffer. And I said, if I go to a conference and I see that Unismart does something that would be helpful, we want that part of it, it'd be nice to be able to do that. And his response was, as long as the savings somewhere else, like time. So,
All right, so one thing that I did do a calculation on is my brothers are putting me in the firing line tomorrow, so we're gonna move on. Where did I put it? This is for Audrey. We do, there it is. Currently, our budgeted electric expense is $33,340. The transfer station uses $6,500 of that. So we're gonna have $26,840 that's gonna come in theoretically and just dump into our undesignated fund balance. And I really don't see that as being the most efficient way to do it. So if we could ask local government center or somebody, or DRA, if we could start creating, without doing an enterprise fund, if there was some other accounting method we could use so we could credit the electric accounts on each of our bills.
Well, can't we have a revolving account?
No.
I made a note to ask Tim Green, our accountant, I was gonna ask him,
What the mechanics
Yeah.
should be?
cause like, you know, when you.
Because
see
you
that
have to be able to go in and out
Right,
throughout the year without going back to town meeting.
right.
Or just so we can budget appropriately, cause that's gonna be the next thing, I'm calling it my solar project. My solar project only needs to make $8,000 worth of electricity, and we're ahead of the game.
So this year we're budgeting for it, for the
Right.
electricity.
Going forward, we need to be able to illustrate the credits. And
Right.
We can't illustrate the credits any other way than saying our fund balance is $30,000 higher than it would have been. That's not a player.
Right. Right. This year we gotta keep doing what we're doing, but next year we need to change that
Right,
up.
right.
I agree.
Sounds like a next year problem.
Yeah, but you gotta start
It's
being able to
actually-
answer, you gotta answer the question now.
I agree.
And the accounting has to be put in place before you end up with 6 months or a year's worth of money that didn't go where you wanted to allocate it. So
Right.
it's a this year problem, 25 problem. That's all I've got.
On the action items, I need the, language written and read and voted on for the, where's my action item list? For the state, for the designation of authority for the Clean Water SRF loan, and it's basically the couple paragraphs on the front page.
We done with warrant articles? We're presenting this tomorrow night as a rough draft.
You're
Can we double check?
presenting-
We're gonna double check the math, right?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you Rob will be.
I don't really care. I mean, we can present a warrant article for $100. That's our job.
Yep.
Do you need me to read this?
Yeah, very specifically, the Board of Selectmen. Yeah,
So, okay, designation of authorities for the Clean Water SRF loan. What's SRF?
state revolving fund.
State revolving fund.
Okay.
This is
Now, I guess I'm going to be looking for a motion. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen, the governing body or Board of Directors of said applicant as follows, that number one, the person holding the position of Chairman of the Conservation Commission, currently held by Steve Scapicchio, is hereby designated as the authorized representative of the applicant for the purpose of filing an application for a loan in accordance with New Hampshire Code of Administrative Rules, Chapter ENVWQ 500, furnishing such information, data, and documents pertaining to the applicant for a loan as may be required. Two, that if such loan be made, the following positions currently held by the following individuals, us, as the selectmen, are the authorized representatives of the applicant for the purpose of signing any documents pertaining to the disbursement of funds to the loan recipient. Three, that if such loan be made, the applicant agrees to repay the loan as stipulated in the loan agreement. Four, that a certified copy of this resolution be included as part of the application to be submitted for a loan. Five, that the persons holding the following positions at the time of a loan execution, us as selectmen, are authorized to sign the loan agreement binding the applicant to the terms and conditions of the loan. And six, that if such loan be made, the applicant agrees to make provisions for assuming proper and efficient operation and maintenance of the facilities after completion of the construction thereof.
And that's not really applicable, because it's not a construction loan.
No.
What is this loan for?
It's my understanding when it was first presented to us, it's $100,000 project, at Mirror Lake for a water quality study that will be totally reimbursed from the state, but we have to, whatever.
We have to borrow the money, we have to,
And they have to forgive it.
and then they have to forgive it, exactly.
So I'll make a
So
motion.
it's a zero-sum game here,
Okay.
but we have to go through the process. This is designating Steve Scapicchio as our representative of the selectmen, but yet we're guaranteeing that the loan
Yep.
will be paid.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm not sure where to sign on this, so,
I thought this would have happened a while ago.
well, we voted to do that, but
This is the actual paperwork.
that's the paper, I guess.
Yeah, no, I just thought that the whole project would have moved a little quicker than that. We did the warrant last March.
So that was action items, correspondence.
Wetlands permit.
Is a wetlands permit by notification for a property on Cow Island. I don't think I need to get into the details of that. It's here for the record if anybody wants to read it. And you're going to create a letter to the state for the four-way stop. Do you want any input, or do you want to?
No, I have it drafted, I just didn't spend much time yet.
No, that's understood. Understood. You've been busy doing budget committee stuff and other things. Got it. Town administrator and selectmen's updates.
So budget, I have the auditor come in the first Wednesday in February for the preliminary audit. And, a couple of general assistance requests already this year that if you can come in Thursday or Friday, we can resolve those. And one of my priorities is to get the, W-2s out for the employees' taxes. So, typical year-end things.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I assume that the, next time you meet, the final credit card bill and everything will be in, so. Really, the 24, all expenditures for 2024 will be done.
Even waste management.
Oh, yeah, I should have those right now.
Okay. Always a few roll in. What happens if they roll in after you close out the year? Do you open it and get it back in there, or what? How does that work?
Not that many come in late.
I mean, would you, if a bill comes in for $100, that was from 2024, what would you do after you've closed out in January? Say
Yeah, I don't know,
it comes in February.
yeah.
Well, you can tell me not to pay it.
Yeah, you just say yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
can't do,
closing.
yeah, I can't do that. Okay. All right.
Snooze, you lose.
Selectmen's updates?
I think we covered just about everything I needed to cover.
Yeah, I think so too.
I just wanted to be clear, the whole thing with the power at the pole is, again, I'm trying to get the association to pick that up. So even though we were talking about it as
Oh,
the
yeah.
colloquial,
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Uh,
Then we don't have to worry about it.
yeah, I didn't know if you
But it's not promised.
did. I say that out loud? I think I said that at some point
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
But, so no, that's it for.
And I have nothing here. We've covered everything tonight. Any other business?
I'm gonna move that we adjourn.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.